want to find that drive and focus that has you locked in and on fire every single day, my book, The Mirror of Motivation, will do it for you. I bought a copy for you. You take care of the shipping. The book is free. Click the link down there. I got you. Now tuned in to the best show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, the go-getter energy that moves you to make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. Putting all this together, what you get is the mindset, the method, the podcast, the philosophy, the book, known as Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. Today's topic is how to raise the standards of a group. So let's say you're part of a group. Let's say maybe you're an athlete. You want to raise the standard. You want to raise your teammates' standards. You feel like maybe they aren't as serious as they need to be, and it is bothering you. Maybe you just joined a new company and things aren't going the way they're supposed to be going with the company. That's probably the reason why they brought you in, to shape people up, to get them performing at a higher level. They're not quite doing it just yet, and you want to raise their standards, but you're not quite sure how to do it. Maybe you've already tried. Maybe you are a part of a group. You're already there. You've been there. The group is underperforming. You want to raise the standards of that group, but the techniques that you have tried to this point have not quite worked out. So maybe you tried cussing everybody out. That didn't work. Maybe you tried pulling people aside one at a time. That didn't work. Maybe you tried just hoping that they get better. That didn't work. Maybe you tried doing nothing and that didn't work. How do you actually raise the standards of a group? So for the athletes who feel like you're stuck with some useless teammates, maybe bosses who feel like you have inherited some inept staff members, people who want to lead, but you're not quite sure how to do so. You're not quite sure maybe that anyone in the group is even ready to follow your lead just yet. Maybe they are ready to follow somebody, but maybe you don't think they're quite ready to follow you. All of those people, all of the above, and anyone else who wants to raise the standards of any group, and that group could be 2 people, group could be 2 million people. I'm going to tell you exactly how to raise the standards of a group here today. So make sure you are taking notes. This episode is about leadership. If you plan on being a leader, if you are already a leader, if you think you're supposed to be a leader, you think maybe someone's expecting you to lead, but you haven't actually been doing it yet, this episode is for you. So let's get into exactly what you need to do to raise the standards of any group you may be a part of. Point number 1, today's topic again, how to raise the standards of any group. Number 1, the key first step of raising the standards of any group, doesn't matter what kind of group, it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, or your experience. Number 1 step that all of us must take to raise the standards of any group is you must raise your own standards. First thing you got to do is check yourself, not check the group. Not ask yourself, what are the rules that they've been following? What are some things that I can change about the processes and the protocols that have been going on here? The first thing you got to do is look in the mirror and you got to raise your own standards. Because if your standards are not up, if you are not being what you want to see, then it will be impossible for you to get anyone else to be it. You must first reflect the change you wish to create. And isn't that kind of like what Michael Jackson said in his song, The Man in the Mirror? Speaking of the mirror of motivation, you can get that book for free by going to mirrorofmotivation.com. You can get my book, The Mirror of Motivation, the self-guide and self-discipline for free. But I just thought of that because I was thinking, that's what Michael Jackson said, right? The man in the mirror. He said, I'm starting with the man in the mirror and I'm asking him to change his ways. So if you want everything else, let's just quote Michael Jackson. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make a change. So thank you, Michael. All you need to do, first thing you got to do is raise your own standards. When you take a look at yourself and make a change, like Michael Jackson said, start with the man in the mirror or the woman in the mirror, then you've completed step 1 to raising the standards of the group. So this has nothing to do with the group. The group doesn't even know what you're doing yet. They don't even know that you're looking in the mirror. They don't even know that you ordered your free copy of The Mirror of Motivation by going to mirrorofmotivation.com. They know nothing about that. This is just for you. Because if you've been listening to this show for any amount of time, you probably already know this, but I'm going to remind you anyway. And if you're new, I'm going to tell you for the first time. Everything that we talk about here on this show, while we may talk about our dealings with other people, and how other people do things and say things and react to things, and how, of course, just thinking about life, we're going to deal with other people no matter what we do on some level. Everything comes back to us. We always bring it back to what we need to do. And when I say we, I don't mean us as a group. I mean we, meaning me as a person, you as a person, that person, them over there, them over there. We all got to bring it back to ourselves. No matter how much this episode is about the group, raising the standards of the group, damn near everything we're going to talk about here is what you need to do. Not what the group needs to do, what you need to do. So the first step is raise your own personal standards. When you become what you want to see, step one is taken care of. In other words, you got to set the example for the group with your actions before you say anything. Let me repeat that one. This is an important one because a lot of people have this misconception about leadership that is all about giving speeches and being a motivator and being able to talk your way through, being able to talk people into doing what you want them to do. That's the absolute opposite of what leadership is. To lead means the first most important thing you must do to lead, and if you only do this, you'll be a very effective leader, is set an example. That's the most important thing you can do in leadership. Your actions must show what you want everyone else to do before you say any words. People need to see you being it before they hear you talking about it. That's another sentence I should repeat. People need to see you being it before they hear you talking about it. You can lead someone who's never even met you because they see what you're doing, they see your example, and then they go follow it. They see how you're putting yourself out there. They see the way that you're running your business. They see the innovations that you've introduced to the industry, and then they go follow what you put out there. You're leading and don't even know the person. They don't even know you, but they saw what you did. They might even not even know that you're the one who did it, but they're following your lead. So you can have people following you without ever speaking to those people. That's how you do it. People follow actions much more readily than they follow words. While we usually see, and this is why people have this misconception about leadership that's all about talking. We usually see people's words as what we think is the motivating factor behind moving a crowd of people, but it's not. It's the example that the speaker is living out that allows people to want to follow their words. So when a person talks and it seems like they're motivating people to action, the reason why people are motivated to action by that person is because they already know that this person has set the example through their actions. So when they talk, all right, we're going to listen to what they say because we already know that they're living this leadership. I'm already following their leadership before they even start talking. So whatever they say, I'm open to it because they've already bought in. People do not buy into talk, ladies and gentlemen. Talk is cheap. And it's becoming more and more cheap because more and more people are capable of doing it, and it's more easy these days to get our talk out to the world than it's ever been. So talk is becoming less and less valuable because it's less and less scarce. It is very cheap. Action, on the other hand, is becoming more valuable because so many people, because we can talk so easily, are forgetting about the action part and they're replacing it with talking. So we got a whole lot of people talking, very few people acting, and it's become more and more valuable. That's how you lead. If you want to be a leader, you must set the example by first looking in the mirror. As Michael Jackson said, change your ways. That's how you make the world a better place. Point number 2. Today's topic is how to raise the standards of a group. The group members, whoever they may be, both of them, all 30 of them, all 5,000 of them, they need to feel that doing what you want them to do, in other words, raising the standards, they need to feel that doing so is not just about you and for your personal benefit. The betterment of the group and the individuals needs to be bigger than your personal benefit. People think, in other words, if people think your desire to raise the standards of the group is going to benefit you, the leader, more than is going to benefit the group itself or benefit any other individual people, because we got to understand everybody is thinking about how something's going to benefit them. Most people don't do things that are going to hurt them more than is going to help them, right? So if they think it's helping you more than it's helping them, they're not going to want to do anything. They're not going to follow your example because they know it's all about you. And understand this point here, they need to feel that raising the standards is going to help them more than it helps you. They don't need to hear you talk about it. They need to feel that that's what it's going to do. If you had to explain how raising the standards is going to help them, then you might need to go back to the drawing board about what standards are being raised. It should be obvious. They should be able to see for themselves very clearly how raising the standards is actually going to benefit them in the long run. Doesn't mean you can't talk about it at all, but it should be obvious. It shouldn't be too complicated for you to explain it if you do talk about it. Now, I follow basketball. Any of you who follows basketball, the season has started now. I know a lot of fans are excited to see it. I don't like when players sometimes complain passive aggressively about individual accolades. Like every year when an All-Star game comes around, you have people, especially now since media is driven by how many clicks you can get. So people write these articles about all-star snubs. That's what they call it in basketball. Players who were close to making an all-star game. Maybe they were good enough, quote unquote, to make the all-star game, but they didn't make it. So they got snubbed out of the all-star game. They got disrespected by the media and the coaches and their fellow players by not being named to the all-star games, or players who feel like they were good enough to win some individual award, such as the MVP award. And they make these passive-aggressive comments. They're out campaigning to make these all-star games and MVP awards and these other subjective outcomes. And they're all subjective because they're based on votes. Anything that's based on people's opinions and votes is subjective. Because it looks to me, whenever I see players doing that, it looks to me that like that player is aiming for that more than, or maybe even equally to, which is still egregious, more than actually winning the game. See, winning the game is objective. It's objective because we got a scoreboard up there. The scoreboard says 100 points to 90 points. I mean, the team with 100 points won. That's objective. It doesn't matter what anybody's opinion is. You could think the team with 100 points is terrible, but if they had 100 points and the other team has 90, they still win, no matter what you think. And when I see players aiming for these subjective awards and all-star game appearances, it seems to me that they care more about how they look individually than how the team looks. And to me, that's not leadership. It's very hard to lead a team when you're campaigning for an individual award, yet when it was time for your team to do the objective thing, that doesn't matter what people's opinion is, you kind of came up short, but you'll go hard for the individual thing. My personal opinion on that. And I told you how in my virtual mentors episode, I believe it was 1245, I may be wrong on that number, but the Michael Jordan virtual mentors episode number 5, I told you how Michael Jordan, before a season once, when his coach Phil Jackson went around the room to all the players and asked them, he said, I want you to tell everyone out loud what your individual goals are for the season. So we all know what everyone's goal is. So if a person seems to be bullshitting and not doing what they need to do, we can each remind them of what their individual goal is for the season. And he came around to Michael Jordan, the most accomplished, decorated, highest paid player in the league, nonetheless on the team. Michael Jordan announced that, listen, my only goal is to win a championship. I don't have any individual goals. All the other stuff that came with Michael winning championships, all the other stuff that he had came with the fact that he was winning championships, scoring all the points, getting the MVP awards, making the All-Star game. All of that stuff happened because he was just damn good at what he did. I remember Kobe Bryant back in, I believe this was 2012. Now, Kobe, of course, played for the Los Angeles Lakers. And that summer, the Lakers completed a trade and they acquired this guy named Dwight Howard. Now, Dwight Howard's back on the Lakers, at least as of this recording. He was back on the LA Lakers for this season, but this was the first time around with the Lakers, back when Dwight was still one of the superstar players in the league. Now, Dwight had gone through some back surgery at that point, and he was still trying to get himself back to 100%. And as the story goes, when Dwight got traded to the LA Lakers, he gave a call to Kobe Bryant because Kobe was the man on the Lakers. Everyone knew Dwight was damn good, and people were thinking, hey, this is a good combination, Kobe Bryant and Dwight Howard together. And the story goes, Dwight Howard called Kobe, and he let Kobe know, like, all right, we're on teams together. Look, Kobe, I'm at 80%, 85% with my back. So he was just kind of letting Kobe know, trying to give Kobe a reason to be optimistic about their teaming up. And they say Kobe then responded to him by saying, look, I need you at 100% because we're trying to win a championship. Bye. And he hung up the phone. And I'm telling you that story to tell you this. All Kobe was caring about was not what he was going to get out of Dwight, not necessarily what Dwight was going to get out of him. And I never heard Kobe campaigning for any individual awards. Neither did I ever hear Michael Jordan doing it. And here's the thing, neither one of them ever had to. They never had to campaign for individual awards because their performance was at such a level that the individual awards were going to happen no matter what. Now, did Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant score a lot of points, get individual attention and win awards? Of course they did. But that was their job on the team. Their job was to score a lot of points. Their job was to take the last shot. Their job was to be the star. I watched Michael Jordan and I watched damn near Kobe's entire basketball career. Never once watching either of those guys, and you could tell me if you disagree, I never once watched either of those guys and thought that to them it was more about them than it was about winning for the team. Because both of them inherently understood, me as the best player on this team and the team following my lead gives us a damn good chance of winning. And when you win, all that other stuff comes with it. And everybody else on those teams, and here's the the thing, if you happen to disagree with that on any level, or say you're not a Kobe fan, I know there's some anti-Kobe fans out there and maybe some anti-Michael Jordan fans out there. Here's the thing that you can't disagree with, is that their teammates followed their lead. The teammates that both of those guys had followed the leads of a Kobe and a Michael Jordan, because it was obvious. They felt through the actions of these individuals that it was more about winning than it was about what am I individually going to get. The individual stuff kind of came with it because they were the star anyway. So you, as the leader, we're still on point number 2 here. The members of your team, the members of your group, they need to know that when they raise the standards and do what you want them to do, what you're haranguing and harassing them to do, is going to help them just as much as it's going to help you. They can't think that it's just you trying to use them. People feel like they're being used. They're not going to give you their best effort no matter what you say. You could be the most eloquent. You could be Obama-esque, Martin Luther King, and giving your speech. You could be Tony Robbins and giving speeches. If people feel like you're just using them to advance yourself, you're never going to get their best effort. But you will get people's best effort if they can see how raising their standards as you want them to is going to help them and help the team overall just as well as it's going to help you. Point number 3. Today's topic is how to raise the standards of a group. You have to make it uncomfortable for the weaklings. When you raise the standards of the entire group, here's the challenge that you're going to run into. There may be some people in that group who are not open to raising their standards. They don't want to step their games up. They don't want to have to deal with these more stringent rules and expectations. They may have grown comfortable doing things the way that they've been doing them before the standards got raised. So when you come around and say, we're going to raise the standards, they may have a little bit of resistance to that. They're like, man, I only had to give 80% effort before and that was good enough. But now you're telling me I had to give 95% effort. So now for the exact same results, I had to give more. I had to put more out and I had to give more input to get the exact same output. Some people are going to resist that. Some people don't really want to do that. Some people in life want to maintain the status quo. They don't want to work harder. They don't want to put forth more effort. They don't want to show up earlier. They don't want to stay later. They just want to keep things exactly as is. Now, I told you how we feel about people who want to maintain the status quo in life. These people are losers because they're trying to stand still while the world is always moving and things are always moving. But here's the thing. You can call them whatever you want to call them. You're going to have to deal with some of these people and you need a way of handling them. So this is what I'm telling you here in point number 3, how to handle these people that you will inevitably interact with. You must make it uncomfortable for the weaklings to stay where they are. So the question is, what if you inherit a group and you think some people need to go? Or what if you're part of a group, you raise the standards, and there are some people who become cancers in that group? They are negative towards the raising of the standards. They are not cooperating with what's going on, and you think those people need to be eliminated. You think those people need to be disposed of. How do you actually dispose of them? Can you just walk around and fire everybody? Maybe you can, but if you're not in a position to do that, let's say you're on a sports team and you got 15 teammates, you can't fire the teammates because you're technically not let's say you're a player on the team. You're not the coach, you're a player. You want to raise the standards, but there are 4 or 5 players on the team who don't like the fact that you're trying to raise the standards. What do you do with these people? Maybe you just want to have a certain group step it up. And there are some people who you think before you raise the standards, you just have an inkling, a feeling that they're going to resist because maybe they're just not feeling you. Or maybe they're just not feeling stepping their games up. Here's what you do. You must create an environment that makes the wrong people voluntarily want to leave because the standards are too high for their comfort level. That's your job. I'm going to say again what you had to do, and I'll explain a little bit more. You must set the standards to a certain level that whoever the wrong people are, they will voluntarily leave because the standards make them uncomfortable. So you won't have to go to them and say, all right, you got to leave. They should decide on their own that they want to leave because they just can't hang with whatever it is that's going on. There's a high school in Philadelphia, at least there was when I was growing up. I think it still exists. It's called Simon Gratz High School. And Simon Gratz in the 90s, when I was in my teen years, they were the best high school basketball team, male basketball team in Philadelphia. And they had this coach by the name of Bill Ellerby. And I think he passed away maybe a year or 3 ago. And I read once in the newspaper, I didn't go to Simon Gratz, but I read this story once in the newspaper of how when Simon Gratz basketball team had basketball tryouts every year, obviously being such a successful team, a lot of boys from the school will come and try out for the basketball team. So of course, anyone who's a coach here has probably run into this problem when you have tryouts. you have a lot more players trying out than you actually have roster spots. So you're going to have to make some difficult decisions, or maybe they're not difficult. You might have to get rid of some people who might be okay, but it's just not enough roster spots for everybody. Or maybe you just don't like having to disappoint people and tell them that they're not making the team, and you got to make you have to take the difficult step of letting them know that they're not going to be on the team. And Bill Ellerby understood this. So he decided that instead of him having to make these tough choices, such as I got 15 good players but only 13 uniforms, who are the 2 players who are going to get cut? Instead of him having to make that decision, or instead of him having to stand in front of a room of young men and say, all right, you 12 are making the team and you 30 are not making the team, get the hell out of here, you're not on the basketball team this year. He decided he was going to go above all of this. He was going to go above the situation. He was going to go over the top of the problem, as I talked about in my book, Work on Your Game. This is what he did, at least according to the story. I wasn't there, but this is what they said. They say at the beginning of basketball practice every year, Bill Ellerby, Coach Simon Gratz, he would just have the players do conditioning drills every day at the beginning of basketball tryouts. And when you showed up to tryouts, Bill Ellerby, the coach, would come out there. He'd have his whistle, but there would be no basketballs. No basketballs. All he would have you do is all these types of conditioning drills. Any of you who's played a sport, you know what conditioning drills are, especially if you play basketball. And those of you who have not played a sport, a conditioning drill is basically a whole bunch of running. That's all you're doing. A whole bunch of damn running all day. You know what a basketball is, right? So just think of some creative ways you could force basketball players to run all around that basketball court as a way of getting themselves in shape for basketball season. That's all Simon Gratz basketball team hopefuls would do for 2 whole weeks. They would just run all practice every day. And there was a player in this story that I had read in the newspaper at the time, that one of the players, after, let's say, the first couple of days of doing this, he thought to himself, like, man, did I sign a track scholarship? Am I on a track team, or am I on the basketball team? He thought that. There were some grumblings from the players, which is to be expected, but he kept showing up because he really wanted to be on the basketball team. And as the story goes, after about a week or 2 of doing this, the basketball team has selected itself, because every day that they kept showing up and doing these conditioning drills, fewer and fewer young men would show up to practice. Fewer and fewer young men will come to tryouts. They just decided, you know what? I don't want to be part of this because I'm not trying to do all these conditioning drills. I want to do some dribbling drills, maybe some shooting drills, maybe show off my crossover and my ability to dunk. But if all we're going to be doing is suicides and 17s and running lines and all this stuff and not even get to pick up a basketball, I don't want to be a part of this. So the team ended up selecting itself. In the book Good to Great by Jim Collins, this is a book that I've recommended to you several times. If you have not read it, fix that problem and go read it. And I did a whole episode on this, episode 1178. The title is First Who, Then What? And this is exactly what Bill Ellerby did. He didn't even find out what basketball skills his players had. He figured out who had the character to keep showing up every day and doing things that they probably didn't really want to do, had the discipline and the mental toughness to keep doing things that they probably didn't really want to do. Let's figure out who they are first. Then I'll show them what I want them to do, such as on the basketball court, actually doing moves with an actual basketball. Getting rid of the wrong people, ladies and gentlemen, is just as important as, number 1, adding the right people, and number 2, having the right abilities. If you have the wrong people who have the right abilities, you'll have a dysfunctional team. Anyone here who's ever been in a leadership position and you've had the wrong people on your team, even though they had the right abilities, you probably didn't enjoy that situation too much. And you probably don't want that to happen again. And I just told you how to make sure it doesn't happen again. Even if you've had people who didn't have the right set of skills, but they had the right attitudes, meaning they were the right who's, but maybe not necessarily so great in the what, you probably enjoyed that because they were at least willing to listen. They were at least coachable, which is something that I've talked about recently. They were at least open to whatever you suggested to them. They were willing to follow your lead. Even though they weren't so great at the what, they were the right who. When you have the right people in place, you can figure out how to do the right things. If you have people who know how to do the right things, but they're the wrong kind of people, no amount of teaching or education or speech giving or motivating is going to change them into a different type of person. You're not going to turn the pumpkin into a glass carriage, all right, like in Cinderella. It's not going to happen. So figure out who the right people are first. Make it uncomfortable for the wrong people, so then you can instill whatever it is you want to instill. But if you have the wrong people around, I don't care how eloquent of a speaker you are, you're not going to change their nature from what it is to what you want it to be. So let's recap today's topic, which is how to raise the standards of a group. So for any of you, whether you're playing a sport, you're a boss running a business, maybe you just want to lead a group, but you're not sure people are ready for it, here's what you do. Number one, key first step, raise your own standards. You must be what you want to see. As Michael Jackson said, start with the man or the woman in the mirror. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make a change. People need to see you being it before they hear you talking about it. People follow actions much more readily than we follow words. While we usually see words as a motivator behind moving a crowd of people, is the example that that person lives that allows us to listen to the words. We are open to the words because we've seen the example. Point number two. The members of your group need to feel that raising their standards is not just about you and for your own personal benefit. We follow a leader who does receive personal accolades because we can feel through that leader's actions that they care more about the team and the group as a whole than they care about themselves individually. The individual accolades and rewards that they receive are merely a byproduct of the success that they have created within the team, such as examples that I use, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. Point number three. How do you get rid of people who may resist you wanting to raise the standards? People who are, maybe they just are cancers. They don't have positive attitudes towards what you're doing. You must make it uncomfortable for them so that they choose themselves to leave. So when you inherit that group and you think some people may not be open to your influence, make it so that those wrong people will voluntarily want to exit, because the standards are too high for their comfort. As I told you, the basketball coach, Bill Ellerby at Simon Gratz High School in Philadelphia, he would just have his players do conditioning drills all day, every day for the first 2 weeks of basketball practice. And the players who didn't have the discipline to keep showing up and doing those drills, they would just stop showing up. And eventually, Bill Ellerby would have his basketball team. He would have 12 guys who kept showing up. All right, y'all are the basketball team. He didn't have to cut anybody. He didn't have to tell anybody they weren't on the team. He didn't even evaluate their basketball skill yet, because he was doing, as Jim Collins said in his book, From Good to Great, he was choosing the who first. Then he was figuring out the what. That's the exact same thing you need to do with the people that you deal with. Now, how do you make sure you're the right type of person? How do you make sure the example that you set is the kind of example that people will actually want to follow and do what you want them to do? How you do that is by reading my book, The Mirror of Motivation, which is subtitled The Self-Guide to Self-Discipline. This is the book that will have you setting the proper example, first of all, for yourself when you look in the mirror, when you're the man or the woman in the mirror. Then when you go out into the world and deal with other people, that example will reflect itself in your actions, and other people will be much more open to your influence and following your lead. And here's the crazy thing, you probably most of the time won't even have to say a word. Just your example alone will get people to follow. How do you get all this and get this book 100% for free? Go to mirrorofmotivation.com. That's mirrorofmotivation.com. Claim your free copy of the book while supplies last. Tell me where to ship it. Worldwide, we are shipping that book. Again, that's mirrorofmotivation.com. Work on your game. Dre all day.